despite being too dumb to know how a controller works and how to get the sensitivity right in the default settings, and despite hardly any people touching CrossFire X with a 4-meter pole, yeah, they thought this is a good idea to make a new one. Scrap CrossFire X. CrossFire X is dead. It's flatlined. It was on life support for this whole time since release. Nah, we're not going to fuck with CrossFire X anymore. We are going to pull the plug and start again with CrossFire Serious Squad. It already has mixed reviews, and apparently it came out in August. So yeah, I'm really late to this news story, but hey, peep the name, late news stories. Yeah, that is why I put late news stories, because this is new news to me. This is breaking news for me. So I'm just gonna, apparently it's in early access right now, but I don't know about you, but I thought this game, CrossFire, was a free-to-play game. They made a free-to-play game for both the PC and the console. The PC one was really good, the console one was a piece of shit, but I still played it because it was an easy way to pass time back then, and I had no other games that I really wanted to play. So that's why I kept on playing CrossFire X, despite me not really liking the game. The game was kind of mediocre. It just didn't give me much excitement because it lacked game modes, and to me, because of my attention span is so small, I need a lot of game modes. I love game modes, but yeah, with CrossFire X they just didn't deliver. Where CrossFire, the original, had a community tab that you play into, and there's so many game modes to choose from. It is like, oh my god, this is heaven. But the reason why I don't still play CrossFire nowadays is because, well, at certain parts of the night, it's just a dead game, certain parts of the night, and I think the last time that I played, I wasn't really having fun with it, to be honest. I was playing on free-for-all, and that is when I started to talk shit in the chat box, talking shit to other players about how bad the game was and how much it sucked, because I believe I was seeing a lot of, at the time, that that game was just as much of a piece of shit as CrossFire X was, and let me explain that. On CrossFire, sometimes my shots would clearly not hit because my aim's kind of wonky, but it would still give me a kill. That's not fair. And when I'm having a good aim day and I'm actually hitting my shots, it would be like, nope, you don't get the kill. Your opponent gets the kill with worse aim than you. And that's what made me give up on CrossFire, is because I was seeing a lot of faults that I was seeing from CrossFire X. So yeah, I think CrossFire X made me realise just how bad CrossFire actually is of a game. But it was popular back in 2007, 2009, when I first played it. I used to adore the game, but nowadays I don't have any love for anything that Smilegate does after CrossFire X. Yeah, they delayed the game from 2020, that was pandemic time, that was lockdown time, so I understood that, but I was expecting a better game and loads of other modes because they had that extra time. And the game, despite that, the game had been in development since 2014, so delaying it another 3 years or 2 years, I think it came out back in 2022, and then it got pulled off the Microsoft Play Store, the Microsoft Store. I think it was 2023, unless it came out in 2021, I don't remember. I thought it came out in 2022, February 2022, which I thought it came out, so a few months later it got pulled off the shelves, off the Microsoft Store, as a free-to-play title that I played until it went offline, until the servers went offline. But I feel like I liked CrossFire X a bit more than the original CrossFire, despite it lacking in game modes. and that is probably because it was an updated version of Crossfire. You go on Crossfire, it's got shit graphics and the gunplay is kind of wonky, and when I'm clearly not hitting my shots, they still give me a kill. It is just an unfair game and not a game that I wanted to use my time up playing. That's why I came off of Crossfire and I cut that genre of games completely off, because I became toxic on first person shooter games. So when I'm getting too toxic, I might as well just like go and play something else. Now the reason why I stopped playing Halo Infinite is because no more free for all. So I used to only play Halo Infinite for free for all mode. Once they took that away and it just became a team game, I wasn't interested in playing it anymore. Even though before free for all came into the game, I was playing on teams, but I didn't want to go back to getting flamed by my teammates when I can't hit my shots. I'm not a pro gamer, it's in the fucking name, but I think on Halo Infinite I'm not called not a pro gamer. I think I'm called assuring, it's some stupid ass name, I don't know, assuring spirit or some shit. I don't know, it's a very stupid name that I don't know how I got it. I think I signed up to Microsoft on the PC and it just gave me a different account when I was trying to log in with my other account that I currently use on my console. So yeah, I've got two, I accidentally signed up for two different accounts for the same fucking thing, Xbox. So I can play on the Xbox servers, but yeah, Overwatch, I think the reason why I stopped playing that is because people were trying so hard that it was hard for me to get a fucking kill in. At first it wasn't too bad. Free for all, I could win, like I kept on using D.Va, so that's probably why I kept on winning. But I was a D.Va abuser, but I didn't abuse her physically, I abused her powers. So yeah. But enough about those other games. That's why I stopped playing Crossfire, is because the gunplay, I realised the gunplay was just as bad, if not worse, in Crossfire than it was in Crossfire X. In Crossfire X it would be questionable which aim is worse, which gunplay is worse, because on Crossfire, on the original Crossfire, the gunplay would be absolutely awful, and same on Crossfire X, but I think the grenades worked better in Crossfire than Crossfire X. In Crossfire X, they would literally be stood on the fucking thing, blow up, doesn't do any damage to them, then I start shooting at them and somehow they'd kill me. So Crossfire has always been a wonky ass game, and now they made this bright idea to make it on VR, but it's not free to play. I don't know if I mentioned the price tag, I'll say it again, £22.49. So you're telling me that I have to go out and get a virtual reality headset for a few £100, and on top of that I have to pay £22.49 to play a game that failed on the console. A game that is like very wonky on PC. So I don't know why they made these bright ideas to make. If you can't make a console game, what are the odds you're gonna make a virtual reality game? If your console game was so bad that it flatlined from release, it only had like 50 to 100 players on it from release, mind you, what makes you think that Crossfire Serious Squad isn't going to be dead from the get-go? You know? But judging from the reviews, there's only 193 reviews from Crossfire Serious Squad, and it came out on the 29th of August 2023. So looks like there's not many people playing it. Probably more people are playing Crossfire Serious Squad than whoever played Crossfire X, and but less are playing Crossfire Serious Squad compared to the original Crossfire, because the original Crossfire still has quite a lot of players still playing it. Depends on the time of the day that you want to jump onto Crossfire. I think from midnight for me it completely flatlines, but then it's revived by 6 a.m. for me, and then it's like alive all day up till midnight to 6 a.m. Well, that's because the EU are sleeping at those hours, and I play on the EU servers because I don't want my game lagging, which nobody does. No gamer wants their game to lag, but yeah. So yeah, made the bright idea despite their game Crossfire X failing. Smilegate made the most the most money hungry idea ever, and made Crossfire Serious Squad $22.49 on Steam. So if you want to go and play one of the probably, if I had to guess, one of the worst virtual reality first person shooter games ever, then go and play it and let me know if it was fun or not. Maybe how broken it is, you might have fun on it, but I don't know, maybe it's just as empty as Crossfire X. I don't know, but I'm not going to look too deep into that because I've been talking about it for 16 minutes already. So on to the next one, which is about pandemic is back. So the next pandemic is coming, and it could kill millions more than COVID. It is called Disease X. Yes, Twitter is a disease, so good name there. Naming a disease after Twitter is quite fitting. So yeah, Disease X on the way, and experts fear it will kill more people than COVID pandemic. So I guess we're going back into lockdown. We're going to start going insane in our own houses, but I think there's quite a lot of people that won't follow those orders anymore, and that is because during the last lockdown the government was going out and partying, getting their groove on, while we were bored shitless sat at home. So well, people who wanted to go out was bored shitless. I'm not bored shitless, I love staying at home, but for those that was bored shitless, they were probably happy when the lockdowns were lifted so they could go out again and meet their friends and cause some trouble like they've been doing for fucking months. So yeah, I don't think they'll make people fall in line again if there's another lockdown, and that is because the government never followed his own rules, so why should we? That's as far as people are concerned. But I think you should probably wear at least something protective on your face, like a face covering, if it comes back into the order. You should wear a face covering because you don't want to pass it on to your loved ones and they end up passing away because you didn't want to wear the mask. For me, I'd only get the vaccination, and the reason why I got a vaccination is to protect myself, I guess. I don't know if it protects other people, because technically it does, because if you don't get it, if you're immune to it now that you've had the vaccination, then other people around you are going to be immune to it. But I don't know if you can still get it with the vaccination, but I'm not a scientist, I'm not a drug expert, I'm just someone that will be like, if there's orders for me to wear a face mask, I'll wear a face mask. If there's orders for me to get another vaccination, I will get another vaccination. But that is only because I care about the people around me more than I care about myself. If I got this Disease X thing tomorrow, and I just pass away, I'm like, deuces, motherfucker. As long as you don't take my family, I'm fine to be sacrificed. But yeah, these pandemics are gonna be probably quite often now. But there are some rumours and speculation about how COVID was made, but I'm not going to get into that because that is misinformation, because I don't know how it was made. All that I know is that it came to my town, it came to my country, that I had to follow the rules at the time. And that is because I follow rules just because I'm not a sheep. It is mainly because I want to put measures in place to keep people around me safe. Not myself safe though. I couldn't care less if I passed away to a fucking illness or a disease. But those around me I care about, so therefore I will always listen to the government when it comes to put your mask back on, or if it comes to getting a vaccination, because as much as I don't like needles, it protects. It's that layer to keep yourself and other people around you safe. So yeah, I'm a vaccination nerd, but so be it. I don't care if I'm a sheep, because at the end of the day, I can do what I want. It's my body. I can put any drugs that the government gives me, and that's legal. It's just another excuse for this drug addict to fucking take drugs legally. So yeah, so you might be thinking that I'm a sheep, but believe me, I'm not. I'm just a drug addict that can't get enough fucking vaccinations, bro. Give me more, because I need them. I need the drugs. But that's obviously a joke. I'm not a drug addict. I'm just somebody that wants to keep people safe. Is that does that make me a sheep? Maybe, but I don't care. But anyway, on to some police kind of news. I don't know what fucking happened. Let's find out together. Chaos erupts on UK housing estate with police injured in mass brawl, terrifying children. When I think of UK housing estates, it's these kind of situations. Like, you always get those chavvy kids around friggin' corner shops, and it's just not a pleasant thing in the UK being housed on a housing estate. I got brought up on one. It was a housing estate which was quite in a bad area, and I'm glad that I left, because by the time, I think it was around the time that I left, like a few doors down from me got burgled, ended up getting burgled, and that was like a few days before we packed up and found somewhere else to live, and then we double moved because that area we wasn't too fond of, and the fuse box kept on tripping every time that you'd put in a video game console in your wall or a computer in your wall. So we wasn't too fond of that house. It was kind of a broken home, so we did a double move, and at the same time it wasn't our choice to move. It was kind of the landlord's choice, because he wanted to, I guess, sell the house on to become mortgaged on, because I guess someone wanted to buy the house, so we had to be out. So but everything happens for a reason, and I think that was a good reason that we moved. We did a double move, and that is because we're no longer in the rough areas, where if we only moved once we would have still been in the rough area. So kind of glad that I double moved, because we found a nice home and a nice area. I still keep my eyes peeled on what's happening around this area, because you never know. People are very unpredictable. But yeah, from my experience, housing estates, there's just a lot of bad stuff that happens, and by the time, I think it was a few years after that we moved out of the housing estate number 1 to number 2, we heard of, because I think my sister moved in that housing estate, we heard that place after we moved was forever getting locked down, because someone forever either did a gun threat or had a gun or they were running around with knives. So your classic housing estate. But so yeah, by the time they moved into that housing estate when we were gone, off of the estate but not too far away from it, so we were still in a bad neighbourhood at that point. Yeah, the housing estates aren't pleasant to live on. Yeah, there's these chavvy kids that think they're like, they think they're gangsters, when you're not really. Go over to America and see how gangster you are. You will find out just how gangster you are, because you will be begging and pleading that someone doesn't shoot you for being a little troublemaker, because they do not play over in America. The citizens and everybody has a concealed weapon over there. But yeah, apparently multiple police officers have been injured after a wild fight broke out just outside of Wrexham in Wales. It is not clear the reason of the huge fight, but it escalated in a woman being hit in the head with a tyre. Yep, sounds about right. But yeah, that sounds about right for a housing estate. But it just happening outside of Wrexham. I've never liked Wrexham as a place. It's always looked like a bit of a shithole when I went there to watch football matches at the racecourse ground. It's always looked like a trampy place, so it looks worse than where I live. So I'll take where I live above Wrexham any day of the week. Because I think you have the Scousers coming in from Chester, because they're quite close together as well. So you have like the Scousers, and the Scousers aren't very polite people. Just listen to their accent; they are not polite. But my opinion of Scousers and people from Manchester, that they have sticky fingers. They can't keep their fingers to themselves. They have to always steal something. So that's my opinion of that kind of area. So yeah, I've been to Wrexham multiple times, and Wrexham's a shithole. Let's be honest. Wrexham is the worst place possibly in the UK. In terms of looking bad anyway. Because I don't even think Manchester and Liverpool looks as bad as Wrexham. I think when I went to Chester's football ground, the only thing that's bad about Chester, you smell the fucking sewage. It was disgusting smell when we went there. So yeah, that's the only thing bad about Chester, pretty much from my experience. But Wrexham, on the other hand, like it looked like the kind of house in the estate where I grew up in. Trash everywhere, and it was just, yeah, it looked very run down. For the around the football ground, at least, that kind of area. Nowadays I would not go in that kind of area at all, because like stabbings happen in the UK all over, so I would imagine Wrexham is probably worse than where I grew up. So I always count my blessings where I grew up and that nothing happened to me while I grew up in a housing estate, but at the same time, I'm kind of... sometimes I wish that I was American, because anybody comes on my fucking property like a mailman or anything, they're getting shot. I don't give a fuck. Like, yeah, if I was American, I'd be trigger happy, bro. That's probably the reason why I probably can't get a gun license, or I probably will never get one. It's probably because I'm a bit too unhinged for one. Anybody coming around my freaking property, whether they're meant to be here, like bin men or postmen, would freaking get shot under my watch, bro. I don't play. I'm trigger happy. So yeah, probably a good thing that I don't have any sort of weapon apart from I have things around me that I can defend myself with if I needed to, but I also have a second locked door, and that's what the advice is, to lock yourself behind another locked door while they are ransacking your place, so if that ever happened. So yeah, depends if I would be home alone. If I wasn't home alone, I'd probably have to get stabbed just to protect my family. So yeah, it is not clear the reason of the huge fight, but it escalated in a woman, yeah, I already read that, and seemingly getting knocked out and falling to the ground. I remember when someone got hit in the head with a football at a non-league stadium, so the football came flying over at full speed, hits them in the head, and they friggin' fall to the ground, and a few minutes later I think they get up, but they had to go to a hospital because it was a head injury that made them, that toppled them over. So to make sure that there was no lasting damages, I think they went to the hospital, and I don't know if there was any because they didn't disclose it, because that's a private matter. Your health is very private. So yeah, several police officers were armed with batons shouting "Get back" at residents as the chaos unfolded. Now, I mentioned the housing estate that I grew up on. I'm going to go back there. There was this one incident, and it went I think kind of viral over on YouTube around my area, the housing estate that I grew up on. One day I think they were trying to do like random stop and searches, or maybe they saw these youths just standing about and they thought to go and search them. Don't know what the case was. I wasn't there, but when they arrived, the people on the housing estate started to try to fight the police officers. So yeah, they pretty much got riot fans down there, and they were all taken into custody, and I don't know if they went to prison for assaulting a police officer, or I don't know whatever happened to them. They probably, knowing the law and knowing the justice system, they probably got out the next day, regardless of them literally trying to attack police officers. But yeah, housing estates, there's always some dumb shit going on. But my family still have to go there to get their haircuts. My family will go to a hairdresser's on that housing estate, and it frightens me because I have the fear that they're never gonna return back home when they go and get their haircut. So yeah, but sometimes you just have to take those chances because you never know what can happen. You know, they have to sometimes go out to work, and yeah, you never know what can happen while they're travelling to work, and you never know what can happen in the car park at their work, because of that incident that happened down in London where NHS worker literally got murdered while returning back to their car after work. So yeah, that's, the UK does frighten me for those kind of examples of the worst things happening to people. But once they return home, I'm alright then. My anxiety levels go straight back down. But if anybody did do that, I'd probably go and fucking see them and go and do what they do to hurt other people's families. Because so I'd probably they'd probably be a victim to me. I know I'm not saying that I'm hard in any way, shape or form, but with a little something, anyone can be hard. Like, it doesn't take much to drive something through somebody's heart. Just saying. But yeah. So let's get through this story a little bit more. So they should get back at residents. I'm actually surprised that this didn't happen in my housing estate. I don't live in one anymore, the one that I grew up in, because this is the type of shit that would happen around there. Officers were called to reports of public disorder just before 5 p.m. on September 21. That word rings a bell to me, public disorder. Yeah, now that I look back on it, that's what they were down at my housing estate that I grew up on, down there. Yeah, that's why they were out for public disorder offences, or public order offences I think they're called, but yeah. So yeah, this is similar to what happened in my housing estate, just the only difference is they tried to beat them up with their fists, not with a tyre, not throwing missiles at them. They kept on because there was this one dude which was friggin' strong as fuck, and he looked like he didn't have any muscles, but the police were fucking struggling with this one dude that kept on friggin' throwing punches, and then when they would grab his friend, he would throw a punch at the other arresting officers. He was wild, bruh. It took like loads of them, pretty much. I would like to say the whole friggin' force it took for them to get him on the ground to arrest him back then. So yeah. Housing estates, there's always something going on. There's arguments in the middle of the street, which should be in their home, but people in housing estates don't care. They will shout and kick off in the middle of the street. They do not care if they embarrass themselves or not. In the Wernlass area, and shocking video footage online shows the mass brawl and chaos that unraveled. So yeah, similar to the one that happened in my area, the footage was posted online and it probably went viral as well. So yeah, it's just the new age of the internet. People will just post you online, whether some people will try to do it to make you look bad, like this was probably filmed by an old guy thinking, look what these today's youths are doing. No respect for anybody, no respect for themselves, their parents, nobody. Our law enforcement, nobody. We pay taxes for these kids so they can eat good. Fuck that, man. So yeah, this was probably filmed by somebody just trying to make this look like a common occurrence, and pretty much is in housing estates. There's always some shit popping off on housing estates. They're the worst places to live in the UK. Like I would want to go back there. So yeah, as the fight progresses, one member of the public even manages to get a police officer to the floor before they regain their feet, and children can be heard screaming in the background as the fight continues. Local police confirmed one woman was taken to hospital with injuries, whereas one child was caught by captor spray in the eyes, but did not sustain any injuries. The brawl resulted in 3 police officers being assaulted and injured in the fight, while 2 more sustained injuries. So yeah, nowadays people will just post you online in hopes of going viral off of you. Whether you're trying to do your job, but you talk to them like in a rude manner, which you you probably wasn't thinking at the time, because you're under tremendous bits of stress. So sometimes your mannerisms might seem like you're coming off a bit rude, but you're not really. You're just under loads of stress, and that stress sometimes shows. So people will turn into Karens, yelling at employees, making their job a lot harder, and they will film them, post them online in hopes that they make it look like the employee is in the wrong, when actually it is the customer that's in the wrong, because they're the one that's making somebody's um, they're making somebody's life a misery, because if corporate sees that and doesn't like the member of staff in question, or they don't like how they handle a situation, that person can be fired from a viral clip. And it's just people take things out of context all the time. I know someone in my area, a boy filmed a little girl having a tantrum, and she was a baby, she was still like a toddler. They filmed her and posted her online, I think, and yeah, and apparently this young girl had a disability. I think she had autism, so people just filmed her having her little tantrum in the street, even though she's a toddler. And the mother obviously went on to a group, I think it was a group thing, a private group I think it was, and she asked the boy to take it offline. And that is because people do anything for their 5 seconds of fame in the current day of the internet. They will literally just film somebody else doing some dumb shit and not give us context of what was going on in that situation. So yeah, this happened shortly before 5 p.m. Officers were called to reports. Yeah, I already read that. Yep, so they're just typing the same fucking shit over and over again. So apparently 5 people got arrested following the incident, and then a woman taken to hospital. 25-year-old man was arrested on suspicion of assault, affray and threats to damage property. So I guess he threatened the woman that he'll damage her property, and he slung a tire at her on purpose. So she wasn't in the way, she was the target, it looks like. The statement continued: 2 men aged 25 and 27 and 2 women, so that's 4 more people, have also been arrested on suspicion of offences in relation to the incident, including affray, threats to kill, and to damage property, and assaulting emergency workers. The North Wales Police stated this is an ongoing investigation, and if members of the public have any footage of the incident, to not share it online but send it to local police officers and help with enquiries. The police added further investigations are underway and patrols will be increased in the area to offer reassurance to the local community. And that is bullshit when they say that patrols will be increased, because they never are. Let's be honest, like, once they've dealt with that one situation, the next day you're not going to see the police there. Like, so yeah, there are people that patrol these areas every single day, which there's like PCSOs. But in terms of police presence, you don't really see them on housing estates, unless they're arresting somebody, of course. Unless they're arresting somebody, you hardly see the police there. It's always these PCSOs, which is Police Community Support Officer, I think that's the term, but yeah, it's basically a wannabe police officer. Somebody that doesn't have the power to arrest somebody, but they will write sanctions and issue parking tickets, I think. I think that's what their job is. They're basically a traffic cop, but they can deal with things on public paths, and they can give out, I guess they can give out sanctions, which they're basically like Anyone could do that. I could do that if I really wanted to. Go around tough areas and just write them up and report back to my boss. Like, anybody can friggin' do that. I don't, because I wouldn't want to be a police officer, because well, people make me afraid as it is. I don't want to actually have to come face to face with these people. But it happened apparently in a small village, which I can't pronounce that fucking long ass name there. It sits within the historic county of Denbighshire and has a population of over 25,000. So it's quite a lot of people there living there. Probably happening in a small village, but it also says that it's on a housing estate. Like, that makes no sense. It's either in a village or it's in a housing estate, because with my experience on housing estates and villages, they're not really the same. Like, I've been in both a village and I've been in a housing estate, and they're quite different. Most people living in villages are probably, I would say, old people. Yeah. People that will look out for their neighbours, like neighbourhood watch motherfuckers. Where a housing estate, everybody keeps to themselves and everybody is a wannabe gangster. If you hang around the shops and you want to become a chav and you wear hoods every day, whether it's warm outside or cold. So yeah, they're quite different. So a housing estate in a village I've never heard of, but okay. I'll just take your word for it, because I think it is possible. Like, this tells me it's possible to have a housing estate in a village, but I've never heard of that. But to be honest, I've never been in a housing estate in a village. But I've seen a village and I've seen a housing estate, and villages normally have like only a few houses there with a local pub there. So, and a housing estate is normally the bad part of town where poor people live, basically. Yeah, let's move on to the next thing, because that isn't news, because there's violence in the world. Who would have thought? Well, if you take a look on who's on the screen right now, this guy is one of the reasons why there's violence in the world. We're talking none other than Vladimir Putin. World holds breath as Putin orders 3,000 nuclear missiles troops to be combat ready. World War III fears have erupted once more. They should have said once again, not once more. Fucking idiots. Idiot writers of this article. After Vladimir Putin ordered thousands of troops from Russia's nuclear missile force to run combat readiness exercises, the combat drills took place in the region on Thursday and saw 3,000 Tagil rocket division soldiers being trained on the highest degrees of combat readiness. So he's getting his troops ready, and it's people are scared for World War III finally happening. He's getting nuclear missiles ready now. Surely this means World War III, and it's like you never know if those missiles are going directly to Ukraine or if he's planning to send it elsewhere in the world, which he would be a fool. If he sends it to the West, then NATO will step in and he will have like a lot of fucking army bases being deployed to come after his fucking soldiers. So he'd be stupid. But yeah, that would spark World War Three because whoever's currently currently sticking with Russia's side will stick with Russia, and then that's how World War Three happens. One side sticks with one country, the other, who is clearly a bad country, and then the good countries, they try to defend against the bad countries, and then the battle spills out in other places like the UK, USA, and all these other places. That's how you spark World War Three, because once they're coming for your ass, gloves are off. They can. That is a green light of them coming after, like the UK, the USA, France, Germany. Whoever's really in NATO. So yeah, because NATO is a big, it's loads of countries in one kind of like army kind of organization. So yeah, it's an organization that you wouldn't want to piss off. But yeah, it looks like that the only thing that's going to stop Putin from being a bigger dickhead than yesterday is him getting assassinated, because this man does not care. He does not care. He pressed the green light to send them to go and to he sent them to battle in Ukraine. He does not care. So yeah, it looks like it's very possible that World War Three is going to happen at some point. Do I think it's going to be soon? Probably not. I think he's got things. I think he's got a few problems in Ukraine before World War Three happens. Now it's possible if he wins the if Russia wins the war in Ukraine, it is highly possible there will be another World War Three, and that is because he'll be like, we've won one fight, now let's go after NATO. Since we won this fight, we've got it in us to beat these Western countries, and it will just grow his ego if he won in Ukraine. But however, there has already been problems in Ukraine. There has been people unaliving themselves, Russian soldiers unaliving themselves because of faulty weapons that Russia has been receiving over in Ukraine. So therefore, World War Three, I think, is quite far away, because his soldiers are trying to desert, and they're also unaliving themselves, from a recent news story that I've read upon. So I don't think they're winning the war in Ukraine, because they're fighting with faulty weapons here. So therefore, I think Ukraine will fucking win, or they'll force Russia to friggin' surrender at some point. It's just a waiting game of when Vladimir Putin finally just gives up and fucking decides to end this war. I don't think he'll ever give up. I think he'll have to be assassinated first, and then somebody comes in, and then they'll give up on this war shit. So World War Three, I think, yes, people have the right to fear it because it is a big concern, but based off of a recent news story that I've read, it's highly unlikely. But I don't want to speak. I don't want to kind of speculate on that sort of shit, because I could say it's highly unlikely, then tomorrow there's one other country, and it doesn't have to be Russia involved to cause another world war. You have to realise that, because if another country goes after another country, then that is a big concern. That could spark another world war. So it's a lot of different things that has to happen before World War is even thought of. Like there would have to be quite a big falling out, but a recent story that I also read up on, if Russian soldiers goes after Poland, that is also a big possibility to for another world war to happen. But in terms of this might be his last resort in terms of these nuclear weapons and this combat. More than likely these nuclear weapons will be heading for Ukraine because he's losing the war over there, based off of recent reports. Yeah, it looks like, from I just said, their Russian soldiers are trying to step down. They're deserting and unaliving themselves because they're getting faulty weapons. So this is probably a last resort kind of thing to head for Ukraine. I don't think Western countries have should be fearing another world war is going to happen, because more than likely these missiles are heading for Ukraine in a last-ditch effort to win that war. If he doesn't win that war, it would be interesting what his next game plan would be. Either to call off the war, which everybody wants, or to, I don't know, I actually don't know. Keep on using the faulty weapons, I guess? I don't know. It's actually interesting to see this man, because, yeah, this has to be going to Ukraine. It can't be coming to the West. Nah. I don't think that's going to spark another world war, unless another country steps in their way, and then in retaliation Putin orders them to go after another country. Unless that happened, I don't think there will be another world war. Unless Russia wins the war in Ukraine, don't think there's going to be another world war. Unless Russia hits Poland, I don't think there's going to be another world war. So that's just my take on it. But let's go to this next story, which is a heartbreaking story. It is about a cab driver who has recently gotten stabbed by his passenger. Cab driver's heartbreaking last words before being stabbed to death by teen Yob. So yeah, this person on the left hand side, he doesn't look like somebody that would do that sort of shit. I mean, his face alone says that he's probably somebody that would come up and offer friendship to you. So this was actually very surprising based off of the looks of the guy. That's why looks can be deceiving, and that's why people are so unpredictable. Because this guy just has a normal face. He looks like that he could be a friend, where usually when somebody's committed something really serious as this, they have the face. They have like a stereotypical murderous face. They have a murderous look. They look like they fucking hate the world and everybody in it. This guy does not look like one of those people. So this was very surprising for me. But let's see what happened in the story. Cab driver begged, "I have got a family, I have got kids." That seems to be their go-to thing when their life is being threatened, is I've got a family and I've got kids. But I've heard of a story on the internet where a woman got killed, she got murdered, and she pleaded for her life in the exact same way, saying that she had, her exact words was, "I've got kids, man." But the guy didn't care. He took her life knowing that she had a family that she was trying to provide for. So people, these evil bastards do not care. Before he was mercilessly stabbed to death by a teenager in an entirely unprovoked attack. So yeah, he probably was just sat in the back of the cab and just thinking, right, I've got this weapon on me, I'm going to wait for an opportunity to kill this guy, which is a very scary. It's a very scary thing. One guy is just trying to do. He's just trying to do his job at the end of the day, and then there's somebody in his cab that he thought was a customer. Little did he know had the intentions to just randomly kill a cab driver, and it was a flick of the coin to see who would land on heads or tails. And unfortunately, it was this guy called Mohammed Istaka. He was 44, and he was lured to a country lane in Solihull, West Midlands, after picking up Oliver Purr, now 20, in Birmingham city centre in the early hours of November 29th last year. So this is kind of a throwback story to last year. Probably the guy finally can be named, because what happens just after, so they can't have stories like this and they can't name them. What happens is a whole investigation goes towards, like in the police department, they have to look at things and they have to see what the hell went on, because they wasn't there, I wasn't there, so we need to map out, well I don't, but the detectives need to map out what went wrong at this night in this cab. Something either went wrong, or it was an unprovoked attack, and we also need to know what weapon he used, because more than likely that's in a dumpster somewhere lying in Solihull or Birmingham. So they need to know all these different information so they can slap a charge on him, and they can also send it to court. So I think his court date is over now, so I think I assume that because his court date is over, he can be what's the name? He can be named and shamed. That's the one. I think I need more water. I've ran out. Per assured him he was hopping out to grab some cash for the fare, but came back wielding a knife, which he plunged into the cabbie's chest while he was still strapped in and unable to defend himself. So he was just sat there and just waiting for the guy, patiently waiting, when he didn't know at the time, but he probably should have just drove off and being like, I'm not gonna wait for this guy, I've got other fares to handle, so I'm just gonna leave him here. But that's only hindsight talking. Like for me, I probably would have still waited for the guy if he said, oh, I'm gonna get some cash so I can pay for this cab. I'd probably think nothing of it too, so I'd probably lose my life in the exact same way. So would a million other cab drivers, because that is, as far as we know, we're getting paid by this guy, so we don't care about waiting a few seconds for our payment. Mr. Istaka managed to get out of the car and run a short distance down the road, but Per chased after him and delivered another deep wound to his leg before leaving him for dead. Two passerbys later found him lying face down in the road, and despite the best efforts of paramedics, he could not be saved. Per sped off in the cabbie's Vauxhall. Oh, so it was a carjacking. That's what made him lead up to this. He probably thought it was a nice car, so I'm gonna steal it. So yeah, to commit further crimes, then probably that's why people steal cars for. I've seen it time and time again. I watch police chases over on YouTube, that the reason why they steal cars is so they can commit a crime with that number plate and vehicle that doesn't belong to them, because it's harder to track the actual person who committed the crime down in a stolen vehicle. I don't think I have to explain that to you though. and then hid out in a caravan for a week before he was eventually arrested. Per from Solihull was found guilty of murder and having a knife and jailed for life with a minimum term of 27 years following a trial at Birmingham Crown Court. So yes, he was jailed following a trial. So now I don't have to worry about talking about scumbags and scum of the earth like this, and that is because they're behind bars and they'll probably, nobody knows me, not a regular citizen knows me, nobody really knows me apart from Spirit Oyster from Morocco, so I can now safely friggin' talk about situations like this, knowing that the guy is behind bars and he doesn't just see his face in a thumbnail and fucking clicks my fucking live stream, because that would be the most unluckiest thing ever. I'd probably have to move to friggin' Ibiza or Tenerife just to hide from this guy. Friggin' psychopath, man. He shook his head while muttering the tariff to himself in the dock, prompting someone in the public gallery to call out, "You're a murderer, you little shit." So he had no remorse for the murder, so he's there's only two places for people like that, either 6 feet under or in prison. I guess at one place, if this was my Britain, I would literally sentence him to death and people like him to death, because we need to strengthen up this country. Per mumbled back, "I'll punch you." That came moments after his barrister told the judge he was filled with regret over the killing. Mumbling in court shows just how much he didn't give a fuck, and it was so audible that the exact words are in this article of what he mumbled. So he didn't mumble quiet enough. Everybody heard him. He couldn't hide what he was saying, so that's what led to his imprisonment, thankfully for the public to be safe, because or as safe as you can be in a Britain like this, because randomly attacking people is just not okay. Like, I get if you attack somebody because of anger, but I don't get why you would have to take that person's life just because they pissed you off in the moment. But we're living in a worst time ever to be a human. It's the best time ever to be a mountain lion that can actually kill humans. Worst time ever to be a human. Jailing him told him, "It is perfectly clear you were intent on causing trouble that evening and engage in repeated acts of unprovoked violence." So it wasn't just the cabbie. The cabbie was probably the one that lost their life, just the only one that lost their life that night. But it wasn't just the cabbie, it was repeated acts of unprovoked violence. So he probably stabbed quite a lot of people, either in the same night or in the same week. There can be no other reason why you directed him to that remote rural location when you got the knife from the caravan. So it wasn't on him at first, he had to go and pick it up in a caravan. You stabbed him in the chest, and when he managed to escape from the taxi and ran down the road, you hunted him down. This was probably on street cameras, so that's probably how they knew that he chased him after him and dealt another blow to him, because at that point he was probably all over the CCTV, and the CCTV, obviously when you see someone get murdered on it, you'll give it over to the police. And when you caught up with him, despite the fact he was bleeding, delivered a further serious wound, you offered him no support, nor did you seek any help. The court heard Per, whose previous convictions include taking a knife to school, age 17, and he did something with caravans, which I'm not going to announce, had attacked other men that night for no obvious reason. So he had attacked other men for no reason that night as well. Probably luckily the other knife wounds was not as fatal as the cabbie's knife wound was. Shortly before he and pal Luca Di Fazio, who was cleared of murder, were picked up, he shamelessly bragged to a girl outside a chicken shop that he was going to rob a taxi that night. So damn, bruh. So holy shit. She went on, our lives will never be the same again. We are not living, we are existing, passing time day by day, minute by minute, until we are reunited with the love of our life again. Miriam told the court her dad came to the country aged 13 and worked as a factory worker as well as a taxi driver. She said, "We barely saw him without his uniform. He spent most of his life working, saving and saving. He built his dream home for us. He was so selfless." Speaking after the sentencing, said this was a horrific attack on a father who was out working that night to provide for his family. Earlier that evening, Per had also assaulted other men for no apparent reason. He was clearly intent on causing harm to others that night. Yep. So yeah, he shamelessly bragged to a girl outside a chicken shop that his intent was to steal a taxi that night. Wow, what a scary story, man. But in our other story, I'm just going to find it. So this is about Ryanair. Ryanair, that lives on my screen right now. Ryanair passenger misses flight. His reaction will send shivers down your spine. That last story sends shivers down my spine. Especially knowing that I think one of the guys that was probably involved in the last situation somehow, but it was they bragged about stealing a cab that night. So yeah, yeah, like that sent shivers down my spine. How that other guy seemed like he didn't get any jail time because he wasn't in the cab, and it was the other guy that did it. So the bragger, I believe, didn't go to prison, but the murderer went to prison for life. So yeah, that sent shivers down my spine because somebody bragging versus doing it. Yeah. For bragging about stealing something, they for bragging about stealing something, there's no prison time, but for actually taking someone's life, there was prison time. Like, is stealing not a offence anymore, man? Because apparently he didn't get friggin' charged regardless of bragging, and when you're bragging about something, there's multiple witnesses that you say it to, so because that's a open threat of doing something illegal, in my opinion, that other guy should have been arrested and put behind bars. But since he wasn't, yeah, that just sends shivers down my spine. Ryanair, but let's talk about the Ryanair passenger who's going to send shivers down my spine and probably yours when I read this out in a few seconds. Air travel can be a challenging experience for many, especially when it comes to comfort, which, while Ryanair, Europe's largest airline by passenger count, has often been in the spotlight for various reasons. Well, Ryanair, it probably is Europe's largest airline because it's cheap. It isn't good. I flew with Ryanair when I went to Ireland, and it isn't a good airline. Like, we had to wait in a frigging corridor, in a hot sauna of a corridor, for frigging hours before they let us on the flight. It was so annoying. Because when you're dealing when you're dealing with heat as a normal person, it can be quite annoying because, like, if you get too hot, what happens? You topple over. So for someone that's got dizziness, Ryanair is not dizzy friendly. It's not vertigo friendly. So don't fly with Ryanair if you've got vertigo, cause holy shit, bruh, you're gonna be standing stationary for a long period of time while your head is spinning around and you're fearing that you're going to collapse. Even if you don't have vertigo, you fear that you're going to collapse because of the heat in that corridor. It was so fucking bad, man. Where normally, in a normal airline, what you do, you wait in a waiting room area, and then you go straight onto the plane. But because Ryanair is so shitty and cheap, yeah, they take you to this, like, while you're boarding a flight, you have to wait in this corridor thing for friggin' so long. Where on a more expensive flight, you get straight onto the flight. You don't have to wait in no corridor or anything. As soon as those doors open, you're going directly to your flight. So airlines like TUI, you don't have to wait in a corridor with my experience. You go straight onto the flight. So Ryanair, I don't know why they hire out a friggin' whole ass corridor for hot bodies to friggin' create more heat when it's already warm. Yeah, not a pleasant experience, and that's what ruins that friggin' company, that flight company for me. This time, it's not the airline that's making the headlines. A recent incident at Palma Airport has cast a shadow over the challenges that airlines like Ryanair occasionally face. A shocking video is currently circulating showing a Ryanair passenger losing his temper. He aggressively confronts the staff, damages furniture and destroys computers, all because he reportedly missed his flight. The incident, which occurred early in the morning, exposed serious gaps in the airport's security protocols. Panic-stricken employees called for assistance, leading to 6 security guards arriving at the chaotic scene, only to find the man still on a wild rampage. The infiltrated passenger even threatened to end his own life and reportedly injured himself before he was apprehended. He was taken to a hospital for treatment and later detained at a police station. I'm pretty sure he will also be on a no-flight list as well. They do not allow this passenger on any flight in the airport, so now he can't fly with Ryanair, the shitty little cheap fucking airplane, but he also can't go higher up from there and fly with Air Canada or Spirit Airlines, if that's even one. I've heard of Spirit, but I don't know if that exists. It could be the airline from fucking from Family Guy, for all I know, the one that fucking Quagmire flies. Ryanair, known for its budget-friendly flights, has faced various challenges over the years, from customer complaints about comfort to disputes over bagging fees. The airline has often been at the centre of controversies. However, incidents like the one at Palma Airport highlight the unpredictable nature of air travel and the challenges faced by airline staff and security personnel. That is true. When I'm flying, at any point, I'm always worried about that guy that stands up and says he's going to hijack the plane. That's literally one of my main fears when I'm flying, because that is something that's happened in the past. That's happened to the one that was going to New York, and I'll end that conversation there. The video of the Ryanair passengers' meltdown has since gone viral, sparking discussions about airport security and the pressures of air travel. While many sympathise with the frustrations of missing a flight, the extreme reaction of this particular passenger has left many in shock. It is really friggin' weird. This story is. It's very friggin' weird, because it looks like his meltdowns, or this looks like a video to his meltdown. 3 Ryanair passengers removed from flight after. Oh, it's a brawl video. But yeah, if he got another flight and he had a meltdown mid-air, that's what that story says to me. It sounds like it happened. He had a meltdown on a flight that he didn't miss, so I guess he got the next flight and he just started to be a knobhead on that flight. So that's why he's on the no-fly list. It's because he was dumb, or since security came, maybe it was in the airport they had his meltdown. But it said incidents like the one at Palma Airport highlight the unpredictable nature of air travel and the challenges. So it happened at Palma Airport, so they wasn't in the air. Okay. So that's why they could get security, and then later, after he's been released from hospital, no. What happens as he's going to hospital, the police will handcuff one of his hands to the bed, so he has to go to the police station after the hospital. They will literally, they handcuff him and then they follow the ambulance to the hospital. That's how you get arrested while in the custody of ambulance personnel. But yeah, very intense situation. But because of the other video, I thought it happened in mid-air, but then I read the story back after I realised that that video was in relation to a different story. That's when I thought, oh yeah, it happened at Palma Airport, I'm stupid. I literally just read it out, but because of the confusion of there was a video underneath that was literally taking place on a flight, that's why my brain was in two different places at the same time. Because at first I was thinking, did this happen on a flight or in the airport? And it did tell me it happened in the airport, because of a video, mid-flight video, it led me to believe that it was that video that this story was on about, when it wasn't. It was two different stories, just one was engraved in a video on a different story from one another, which is the most idiotic thing that articles do. So yeah. But going to the next story, this is about a fire. Fire and explosions at golf ball factory kill at least 5. A fire and explosions at a golf ball factory in Taiwan have killed at least 5 people and injured over 100 more, officials have said. how would an explosion happen if you were literally just packing golf balls to get shipped out to like countries like where golf is in England, USA? You have Australia, the Australian Open. So these golf balls, yeah, they're packing them to go into the fan to be transported to other countries all around the world. How the hell did an explosion happen? Like I don't think if you heat a golf ball, I don't think it explodes. I think ping pong balls explode, but not golf balls. Unless it's the amount of pressure that's put on the golf balls that eventually they just give way. I don't know. I'm not a golf ball expert. I'm not a golfer. I'm not Tiger Woods. But yeah, a fire happened in a factory. And my first thought was, how was there explosions if golf balls don't explode? Because you can't. They literally can't be. I thought they were fire resistant because of they're quite tough to break. A golf ball. It's nearly impossible for a human hand to squish a golf ball. So yeah, but I guess it's the amount of pressure now that I think about it rationally. The fire began at the factory in Pingtung County on Friday night and raged overnight. 3 firefighters were among the dead, authorities said. So the 3 heroes that died in the fire. Rest in peace to them. Thoughts and prayers go out to their family. Rescuers were searching for 4 factory workers and 1 firefighter who remained unaccounted for, officials said. More than 100 people were taken to hospital with injuries. Yep, because there were so many people that are factory workers. Like, there are so many people. So they're lucky that that wasn't about 1,000 people taken to hospital. Because factories are full up with people. I've seen the insides of a factory before. I didn't like the job, so I quit it. That's why I won't get a factory job, because I'd rather be 6 feet under than get a friggin' factory job. Such a miserable environment factories are. Hats off to those that can do it so we can eat. So someone has to do that job, and it's not gonna be me. I tell you that much. But the government had set up an emergency operations centre to offer assistance to those impacted by the fire, like friends and family of the workers that was at work. So yeah, thoughts and prayers go out to their families too, not just the 3 heroes that had their life taken by this fire. Thoughts and prayers go out to their friends and family. Chow Chung Mi, magistrates of Pingtung County, said in a Facebook post the cause of the fire was still under investigation. Facing the grief of the family members, I could not say anything except to bow deeply, apologize, and express my deepest condolences, she said after visiting the funeral home and meeting the victims' families. Authorities said natural gas may have contributed to the explosions, which occurred as firefighters were attempting to put out the fire. So, therefore, they're saying that the fire is still under investigation, the cause of the fire is still under investigation, when we all know that that was a gas leak, because like gas contributed to an explosion, and you put 2 and 2 together, it was a gas leak. Unfortunate, one of the most silent and deadly killers that we have to face, because you can't smell the gas, so it can gas you out and you can lose your life because you inhale the gas. You inhale the carbon monoxide going into your lungs and choking you, and then you just pass away without even knowing the cause of your own death, let alone the friggin' detectives that have to, or the undertakers that have to find out what the cause of your death is. So yeah, death by gas and gas leaks are the most scariest ways to die and the most scariest things to deal with, and that is because gas, you can't smell it, so you don't know when there's gonna be a gas leak. All you have to do is get one of those gas alarms that alerts you when carbon monoxide has been let out in the atmosphere that you breathe in. But also, how would you escape from a gassy building is very unknown, because I guess you'd get a cloth and put it over your nose and mouth, and you'd temporarily stop breathing while you're heading for the front door or the back door, depends which way you leave, or which door is closer. So yeah, very unfortunate, because gas leaks can happen at any time, any place, and it can be the silent killer that kills you off. And when you're already dead, the gas doesn't stop leaking, so what happens is, because of the heat of the fire that the gas leak has caused, it eventually booms your whole house or your whole business, and it just goes pew. So yeah, I don't know if you heard that, but I said pew, like an explosion sound. Try to make an explosion sound. I'm not a voice actor, so I don't know how to make sounds with my voice. My voice is fucking going out at the moment. I need a beverage. So we are lucky that we are down to our last story. Buckingham Palace stormed by anti-monarchy protesters who gleefully posed for pictures to celebrate fantastic moment. What's the fantastic moment here? You breaking in, getting past the guards that could have killed you before you got in there, to pose for a picture of what you're saying no to? And they've got t-shirts here saying "Not My King," and it's like, bruh, whether you like it or not, Mr. Not My President, Not My King, they are your presidents, they are your kings at the end of the day. You can't change that fact. But yeah, I don't know why people do these sort of acts, because they're putting themselves in harm's way, because if those guards choose to shoot at you and kill you, then you've left your family behind because you were just a dumbass. But yeah, this is highly unemployed behaviour, because they don't have boundaries, these protesters. It's not enough that they can protest on the streets peacefully, that is our human rights, but no, they go beyond our human rights, and they try to give people less rights by standing in the middle of the fucking road, and they break into in important places, they break onto people's properties, and that's also not okay. An anti-royal protest group have staged a protest inside Buckingham Palace. Protesters from Republic posted on social media about their latest demonstration. They posed for a photo inside wearing the palace, each wearing a top with a single letter on to spell out the phrase "Not My King." They captioned the photo with the following: "This is a fantastic moment for Republicans nationwide, with a group of normal citizens standing up for democracy in the adopted home of the monarchy." This is highly unemployed behaviour. How they protest nowadays is the most stupidest ways possible. They're just pulling ways to cause trouble out of their asses, At first it was just stop oil going to football stadiums, interrupting matches, jumping on the pitch, buckling themselves against a goalpost, in the name of protesting against oil. And these trespassing, protesting kind of little shits, this is what's wrong with everywhere, literally everywhere. Because it's one thing protesting where you're supposed to protest, but obviously you're not supposed to protest in Buckingham Palace. And my only thought is, how did they not get shot? How did, like, don't they have snipers on the roof? So how did they go unnoticed? That is my only question to this story. Seems like whether you're protecting the king or you're protecting normal citizens, the police literally and guards don't want to do their job anymore. They used to, but not in this justice system.